Right in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner, my sister Chelsea looked straight at our parents, tears streaming down her face, and said, "Wait. You told me Danny got the same amount. You showed me bank statements. You said you set up a matching fund for him." Nobody at that table said a single word, because my parents had fabricated bank statements. They created fake documents, fake account summaries, to make my sister believe I was receiving equal financial support. Meanwhile, on their home computer sat a color-coded spreadsheet tracking every dollar they spent on each of us over 22 years. My sister's column totaled $487,832. My column? Zero. Not roughly zero. $0.00. And my 78-year-old grandmother, sitting right there at that same table, had just found out they'd taken $52,000 from a trust she set up in my name and gave every penny of it to my sister. To understand how we got to that Thanksgiving table, I need to take you back to where it all started. Before we get into the full story, if you're new here, we share real stories people have posted online, new ones every single day. If this already has you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what drops next. Alright, let me tell you everything. I'm 29, my sister Chelsea is 33. We grew up in the same house in Naperville, Illinois, went to the same schools, had the same parents. And that's basically where the similarities stop. Chelsea was the dancer, the homecoming queen, the one whose bedroom got redecorated every 2 years? Maybe 3. New furniture from Pottery Barn teen either way. I was the kid who got told we just can't afford that right now when I asked for a $40 TI-84 graphing calculator in 10th grade. $40. I bought it myself mowing lawns for the Petersons 3 doors down. And that never changed. It just kept getting worse. When Chelsea graduated high school in 2010, my parents threw her a party that honestly rivaled some weddings I've catered since. Full spread from Portillo's, a DJ, one of those photo booth setups in the backyard, probably 60 people. When I graduated in 2014, my mom made a sheet cake from a Duncan Hines box mix, the chocolate kind, not even the good one, and my dad forgot to take the day off work. He showed up at like 7:30 that night and said, "Oh, right, congratulations, buddy." That one stuck with me, but I had zero clue what was actually going on behind the scenes. Chelsea went to University of Illinois and my parents covered every single penny. 4 years of tuition, room and board, sorority dues, meal plans, a brand new 2011 Honda Accord her freshman year so she could drive home on weekends. When my turn came around, my dad sat me down at the kitchen table. I think it was a Tuesday night in August, the week before senior year started, because I remember it was still light out, and said, "Look, we believe in you, but we just don't have the resources to help with school right now. You're resourceful, you'll figure it out." I was 17 years old. I figured it out. Community college for 2 years, transferred to a state school, worked 30 hours a week washing dishes and prepping at Rosario's, this little Italian place on Ogden Avenue, and graduated with $38,200 in student loans that I'm still paying off. And here's the thing. At the time, I actually believed my parents were broke. I felt guilty for even being disappointed, which is kind of messed up when you think about it. After college, I threw myself into restaurant work. Line cook to sous chef to executive chef at a farm-to-table spot in West Loop by age 25. Then in March 2022, I took every penny I'd ever saved, $67,400, cleaned out my entire savings account at Chase on a Wednesday morning. I remember standing at the teller window feeling like I was going to throw up and open my own catering company, Oak and Ember Catering. I built that business with my recipes, my hands, and about 4 hours of sleep a night for a full year. No investors, no loans, and absolutely no help from mom and dad. By December 2023, I was clearing $180,000 in annual revenue with 6 employees and a 3-month waiting list for weekend events. Remember that part about my catering company? It becomes important later in a way that made me see red. Meanwhile, Chelsea's life was going in a very different direction. She married this guy Derek in June 2019. My parents didn't just help pay for the wedding. They paid for the wedding. All of it. Donata House in Wheaton for the venue, some high-end florist in Hinsdale whose name I can never remember, open bar, live band, the whole thing. Total cost? I'll tell you exactly, because I saw the receipt later. $73,500. After the ceremony, my parents handed Chelsea and Derek $45,000 in cash. For a down payment on a house in Lisle. And on top of that, they were wiring Chelsea $1,200 a month for what they called supplemental living support. She was a 30-year-old married woman receiving an allowance from mommy and daddy. And somehow that still wasn't enough. In early 2021, Chelsea got sucked into a multi-level marketing scheme called Vitalux Wellness. Overpriced supplements, essential oil blends, the whole pyramid. Derek told her flat out, "Babe, this is a scam. Please don't do this." She did it anyway. Maxed out 3 credit cards, took a $28,000 personal loan from Discover, burned through their joint savings buying inventory and flying to Vitalux conferences in Scottsdale and Nashville. By early 2023, everything was gone. Derek filed for divorce April 14th. The house went into foreclosure by July. Chelsea declared Chapter 7 bankruptcy in September with $94,000 in total debt. And that's when my parents made the phone call that started all of this. September 2023. I was at my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon helping my dad transfer files to his new laptop. He just bought a Dell XPS, couldn't figure out how to move stuff from the old one, classic dad stuff, asked me to drag everything over. I was copying folders, just clicking and dragging, not even really paying attention, and I saw a file name that stopped me. Child Investment Tracking 2001-2023.xlsx. I know I shouldn't have opened it. I know that. But if you saw a file with that name on your parents' computer, come on, you'd have clicked it too. The spreadsheet was meticulous. And I mean meticulous. Color-coded tabs, categories broken out by year and expense type. Tuition,
bankrupt,
insurance premiums, clothing, Christmas gifts, medical expenses, wedding costs, down payment, monthly stipend. 2 columns running side by side. Chelsea on the left, my name on the right. Chelsea's column totaled $487,832. My column was completely blank. 22 years of quarterly updates and there was not a single entry under my name. Not the birthday cakes. Not the school supplies. Nothing. I sat in my dad's office chair staring at that screen and I don't even know how to describe it. It wasn't anger. Not yet. It was more like this sick, quiet feeling of oh. So they knew. They always knew exactly what they were doing. And they were keeping score. I emailed myself a copy. But then I clicked on the second tab. And this part, I'm not being dramatic here, this part made me feel like I was actually losing my mind. The second tab was labeled Adjustments. There was a section titled Mom's Trust Disbursement, 2015. My grandmother, my mom's mother, had set up education trust accounts for both grandchildren years ago. $52,000 each. I never saw a dime of that money. Not 1 cent. According to this tab, my parents transferred my entire $52,000 trust disbursement into Chelsea's account in January 2015 to cover what they called a tuition shortfall. They took my grandmother's gift to me and gave it to my sister. Never told either one of us. $52,000 that was mine. Just gone. Documented right there in black and white. And what I did next. I probably should have handled it differently. But honestly, I don't think I would change a thing. I didn't say a word for 2 months. I sat with it. I built my case. In November, I called my grandmother and carefully, very carefully because I didn't want to give her a heart attack or anything, asked about those trusts she'd set up. She said, "Oh honey, I set those up years ago, your parents handled the distributions. You got yours at 18, right?" When I told her I'd never received a cent, the line went dead quiet for about 10 seconds. Then she said, "Real soft, I'm coming to Thanksgiving this year." Just like that.
No explanation.
I'm coming to Thanksgiving this year. Something about the way she said it, I don't know. That woman was on a mission. The week before Thanksgiving, Chelsea called me sobbing. She was drowning. Living in a studio apartment in Bolingbrook above a dry cleaner. And I mean directly above it, she said her clothes all smelled like chemicals. Working part-time filing paperwork at a dental office. Eating ramen 3 nights a week. She asked if I could lend her $15,000 to get back on her feet. I told her I'd think about it. 2 days later, my mother called. And this is where I lost it. My mother said, and I will never forget these words as long as I live, "Your sister is struggling and you're sitting on a successful business. Family helps family. We've always been fair to both of you, and now it's your turn to step up. Always been fair." I printed the spreadsheet that night. All 3 tabs, full color on my office printer at Oak and Ember. The one that's always low on cyan, but whatever. Put the pages in a manila folder. And I brought them to Thanksgiving dinner. We made it through the turkey. We made it through my aunt's sweet potato casserole and the rolls and the stuffing. My dad stood up, glass in hand, about to launch into his yearly toast about gratitude. And I said, "Actually, Dad, hold on. Before you do that, I've got something I want to share with everyone." I pulled out the manila folder. My mother's face went white. I mean completely white. Like all the blood just drained out. My dad's fork hit his plate with this clang that I can still hear when I close my eyes. I read it line by line. 2010, Chelsea, University of Illinois Fall Tuition, $24,800. My column, 0.
2011, Chelsea, Honda Accord Purchase, $19,2
My column, 0. 2012, Chelsea, Sorority Housing Upgrade, $8,400. 0. 2014, Chelsea, Spring break trip to Cabo, $2,600. 0. I kept going. Year after year. Chelsea's hands went over her mouth. My dad finally cut in. Now hold on. Son, you're taking this completely out of context. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, Dad, in what possible context is $487,000 versus $0 fair? Tell me. I'll wait. He didn't answer. Then I flipped to the second tab. The trust money. I looked at my grandmother. She was already crying. She looked at my mother and said, Catherine, is this true? You took Daniel's trust money. My mom started falling over her own words. Something about how Chelsea needed it more and they were going to pay it back, and it was a family decision during a tough year. My grandmother stood up from the table. I have never in my life seen a 78-year-old woman look that terrifying. She pointed at my mother and said that money was not yours to touch. That was my gift to my grandson. I'll be calling my attorney first thing Monday morning. And then it happened, the moment I told you about at the start. Chelsea, through her tears, looking straight at our parents, said the words that blew the whole thing wide open. She had no idea. Our parents had been showing her fake documents for years, telling her I had a matching fund, making her believe we were being treated equally. All of it completely fabricated. Chelsea turned to me, mascara running down her face, and said, Danny, I swear I didn't know. I swear on my life. And I believe her, because looking at her face right then, I saw the exact same thing I'd felt sitting in Dad's office chair staring at that spreadsheet. That sick, quiet realization that your parents are not who you thought they were. My 78-year-old grandmother looked around the table, shook her head, and said, I always knew something was off with you people. Then she poured herself another full glass of Merlot. God bless that woman. The aftermath has been, I don't even know what word to use. Nuclear, I guess. My grandmother retained a probate attorney that following Monday. The trust documents explicitly stated that each disbursement was designated for the individual grandchild and could not be redirected without the grantor's written consent. That consent was never given. My parents are now facing potential legal action from their own 78-year-old mother for misappropriation of trust funds, which is kind of wild to even say out loud. Chelsea and I have actually gotten closer through all of this. Never would have called that one. She called me 2 days after Thanksgiving and apologized for every single time she unknowingly benefited from the imbalance. She's not asking me for money anymore. She got a full-time job as an administrative assistant at a law firm in Downers Grove, enrolled in a debt management program, and when I talked to her last week she sounded more like herself than she has in years. She's gonna be okay. My parents haven't spoken to me since November. My mom sent exactly one text on December 8th that said, you have destroyed this family. I replied with a screenshot of row 47 of the spreadsheet and said, no mom, you just documented it. But here's the last thing. The part that still makes my blood boil even now, and I'm not someone who stays angry about stuff usually. My Aunt Linda called me last week, and she let something slip that was basically the cherry on top of this entire garbage sundae. Apparently, my parents had been telling the entire extended family for years that they funded my catering company, that they gave me the startup capital, that Oak and Ember existed because of their generous financial investment in my future. Every aunt, uncle, and cousin at every holiday gathering for the past 2 years thought my parents bankrolled my business. They were taking credit for my success. The business I built completely alone with $67,400 of my own money and 4 hours of sleep, as proof that they were these great, equal opportunity parents, while literally maintaining a spreadsheet on their home computer that showed they gave me nothing. I forwarded the full spreadsheet to every family member whose email address I had. So here I am, sitting in the office of the catering company that I built from absolutely nothing, and I don't know what to think anymore. Did I go too far reading it at Thanksgiving? Should I have pulled my parents aside privately? Probably. Yeah, probably. But 22 years and $487,832 of documented favoritism, plus $52,000 stolen from my grandmother's trust, plus fabricated bank statements to cover it up, plus taking credit for the business I built alone? At a certain point you stop asking yourself if you went too far and start asking how the hell they got away with it for that long.